Hello there. Welcome to my show, COVID-19 update by Heerak for July 9, 2020. Um, yeah, so today is National Sugar Cookie Day. So you probably missed that, coffee times with your little cookie or donut or cracker at the workplace, you know. Yeah, that's like the thing of the past. Now, if you go to workplace, you'll be wearing like a mask, N95 mask. So, yeah, it's completely different reality now. But um, yeah, that's what's going on in America. Yeah, it's basically 1,000 people dying every day. We had 951 deaths in 24 hours. Um, Death rate is picking up in many states as COVID-19 spreads aggressively. Confirmed death, total death in America yesterday was 132,277. Today it's 133,228, going up and up. Confirmed cases yesterday was 3,053,328. Today is 3,112,252. So around 60,000 have gone up, and that's been the rate recently. So if cases go up, the death list will go up, death rate will go up. Um, and many states are hitting their record death rate, so their death rate is beginning to increase. So it takes like anywhere from 2 weeks to 5 weeks for confirmed cases to end up in death. So that's coming, you know. Let's go to top five cases in Asia. And you're listening to Chinese music in your background, Chinese traditional music. You like it? You may be hearing that all over America. Once China occupies us, make us into their colony. Yeah, it's one of my theories that China is following through on their systematic plan to dominate and colonize America. So once millions of Americans die, they'll send in the Chinese Red Army to occupy our country and populate our country with millions of Chinese soldiers who will act as governing agents in all 50 states. They have the numbers to do it. They have over 1.2 million Chinese people, so they could easily send 200 million Chinese over to America to keep America under control. So yeah, it's been done before. Ancient Roman Empire sent in their soldiers to act as controlling agents in their colonies. That's like 2,000 years ago. So China could do that easily with modern technology. Um, yeah, their technology is really advanced now. So, they could probably monitor 330 million Americans without any problem, like 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, save it in their little MP4. Yeah, it's easy to do it. Hire some, or like get 100 million people to monitor them. It's like three people per monitor. Yeah, it's not that hard. If you have the money, you could easily do a lot. China has lots of money. We gave them all of our manufacturing, and and we gave them all of our money. So China has all the manufacturing, is dominating all the manufacturing sectors, and it has all our money. So we have nothing, and now we're not even going to have our lives. Yeah, talking about we as Americans, we're losing everything because President Barack Obama was so incompetent, and President Clinton sold us out to China. So we're just being destroyed left and right. You should thank God that President Trump is the president, not Hillary Clinton. Our nation would probably have been a colony of China by now. Would have been completely destroyed. Yeah. Um, as you know, Democrats they're not interested in making America strong. the Democratic Party is interested in carving up America for all of the world, giving everything that we own to illegals and foreigners. They're not interested in helping American citizens. So yeah, having Democrats in power is the worst thing you can experience. But yeah, but yeah. So you thank God Hillary lost in 2016. Um, yeah. So yeah. So let's look at our top five. India is number one in Asia at 767,296 cases. Their death rate is at 21,129. So the percentage of death rate is at 3%. Pakistan is 240,848 cases, and their death is at 4,983. So 2% are dying. So still very low compared to United States. Bangladesh has 175,494 cases, and their death rate is at 1%. So 2,238 have died since November to now. So that's like our 2 days. We're going to have that much die in America because we have like 1,000 dying per day now. And that's going to increase. I'm predicting Heerak Christian Kim. My name is Heerak Christian Kim. I'm the independent candidate for U.S. Congress in Virginia's 8th District, running against Don Barrow's Democrat, and running against Jeff Jordan, who's Republican, and running against Mike Webb, who's an independent as well. Mike Webb, I, Jeff Jordan, and Mark Elmore were four people running for primaries in the Republican, and then they changed the convention, so we're running for the convention. And then Mike went independent, and I decided to go independent in March, in end of February, beginning of March. You could see the video where I talk about that. After this video is up, there are two videos you could click on. The one at the top, if you click on that, you'll see why I decided to go independent. So I went independent as well, which left Mark Elmore and Jeff Jordan to duke it out at the Republican convention. They didn't need to collect any signatures because we had a convention. And then Jeff Jordan won, so he's the official Republican ticket. Obviously, all of us are conservative and are friends, but Mark Webb and Heerak Christian Kim, that's who I am, decided to go independent. So yeah, so I intend to beat Mike Webb, another independent guy running for U.S. Congress in Virginia's 8th District. I intend to beat Jeff Jordan, Republican running for U.S. Congress in Virginia's 8th District. And I intend to beat Don Beyer, Democrat, who's the incumbent U.S. Congressman in Virginia's 8th District. I'll probably give jobs to Jeff Jordan, Mark Elmore, and Mike Webb if and when I win. So yeah, because I like them all. But I feel that I'm the best candidate. That's why I'm encouraging you to vote for me on November 3rd, 2020. Yeah. So yeah. It's kind of interesting what's going on because like if you see China, that's where COVID-19 started, right? And they only had 84,992 cases. And in the beginning, it sounded like China was going to have a lot of deaths. But as I said, it's kind of like China was like trying to, kill some of its citizens so that it doesn't get blamed for COVID-19. So they only have 4,641 people die. That's 5% of the cases. But that's like 4 days tally for the United States. In 4 days, we have like over 4,000 dead when we're going at the rate of about 1,000 a day. And as you know, Heerak Christian Kim, that's who I am, independent candidate for U.S. Congress. It is my argument that COVID-19 is genetically modified biological weapon of mass destruction, COVID-19, created by communist China, communist Red Army, in order to destroy America completely, because he wants to dominate the world. You know, countries have done worse to dominate the world. You know, power is a strong force that pulls countries, and some countries are less ethical than others when they want to become dominant as a global power. China is a communist Red Army, Marxist, Leninist, Stalinist dictatorship, basically. You know, it's a one-party system. And you can see that from the way it's treating Hong Kong and Taiwan. Um, it's, you know, it's going to annex Hong Kong, it's going to annex Taiwan. That's all coming in next couple of years. There's absolutely no doubt about that. And that's why China created this massive weapon of mass destruction, COVID-19, in order to destroy United States and NATO powers completely, so that we can't do anything as it annexes Taiwan and continues to dominate the world. And as I said, it's my theory that once millions of Americans die, Chinese Red Army will send like millions of soldiers and start colonizing America, all 50 states, by brute force. They've experienced dominating and colonizing many of the provinces, and you see what they're doing in Hong Kong. So they have a lot of experience in it, so I don't think they'll have any problem colonizing all 50 states with their military power and mechanism. The most important thing is that they have the manpower to do it. They could send about 100 million soldiers, which they are capable of doing. It's a single party system. They could conscript 100 million soldiers and send them all to America, you know, to dominate us and control us. So that's all theoretically possible, structurally possible, strategically possible. And those are the very important points that you have to recognize. Because if it's strategically possible, it can be done, they could do it, right? You know, there are things that people can't do. There are things people can do. China colonizing America can strategically be done from a structural angle, from a military angle, from a political angle, from a financial angle. China has so much money that they don't need anymore. They, you know, when you have so much money, you rather dominate and control and have power. Money is not as important as power. So that's where China is right now. They're so rich. No other country comes close. Now they're kind of bored with money. They want territory. It's a logical step. I mean, you study history for 10,000 years, recorded history, anecdotal history. Yeah, I mean, folk history. Yes, it's the same story. China is kind of being a very human nation about it. You know, that's what humans do. When they have wealth, they want power. You know, it's just that's natural possession of things. Yeah. So you know, our Secretary of State Mark Pompeo recognizes this Chinese threat. So he's trying to legalize TikTok, because once you let them into your system, you know, they know everything about you. You know, it's one of those, like, you know, you open your door, vampire comes in, you know, vampire could bite you on the neck and make you into a vampire. In the same way, like, once you start using a lot of the internet-based programs by China, like TikTok is a Chinese country government. Every video you record can be stored in the hardware in TikTok systems in China, and especially if a U.S. soldier or FBI agent or children of FBI agents or police, you know, China will systematize that whole information by utilizing a couple million contact tracers or whatever. You know, it's a one-party system. They can do whatever they want. They could use millions of people to systematize every U.S. citizen by name, address, and create a massive database, intelligence network strategy in preparation for invasion of the United States with their military force. That's coming. In my opinion, it's coming. Once millions of Americans die from COVID, you will see that you will have a massive invasion of Chinese army. There's no way America will be able to stop it. Right now, Chinese Red Army is working on a type of STARS defense system, uh, immobilizing our nuclear networks. And my theory is that they will achieve that because obviously when US, China invades America, they'll have to incapacitate our ability to strike them with our nuclear weapons. So we have like 10,000 nuclear warheads that could strike China in a matter of hours. They have to incapacitate that before they invade. And my theory for that is they're testing out their systems. For example, Australia a few weeks ago had a massive internet reach, and none of their systems were working for like hours. So China was testing out their, I would say, cybersecurity weapon on Australia to see if it works, and it worked. So they're fine tuning that now. It's kind of like they're fine tuning their virus through their lab, Wuhan lab, and now we have the final product of their decades of biological weapons of mass destruction research, and it's completely destroying our country. It's doing its intended effect that Chinese Red Army had planned. And obviously, it's multi-tier. China is not going to just send out a virus just to kill us. It has a long-term vision. They have a 5-year plan, 1-year plan, 5-month plan. It's the communist way. That's how the communist countries work. They have like plans. So the next 3-year plan is to kill millions of Americans. I'm estimating like 30 million Americans minimum would die in the next 2 years, 2 to 3 years from COVID. And because it's a biological weapon, you're not going to find the virus through traditional ways of developing vaccine, which is for normal viruses. This is a genetically modified virus. So it's like seedless watermelon. I love seedless watermelon. There's no seed, but that's genetically modified. That's why there's no seed. But even without the seed, you can have harvest after harvest because it's genetically modified. It's not a natural seed. It's not a natural thing. I mean, it's they have genetically removed all the seeds from your watermelon. If they could do that with watermelon, imagine what they could do with other things, And that genetically modified organic products, MGOs, that's been around for decades. And so China has been kind of experimenting on human beings. And obviously, as a communist dictator, they could experiment on their prisoners, any kind of virus. They have thousands of prisoners they could test they could do human experiments on. They don't subscribe to any ethical system. So they could experiment on human beings. I'm sure they are. So, I mean, how else are you going to fine tune a viral weapon? You have to experiment on human subjects. So China is not, it's a communist dictatorship. Of course they could do that. Yeah, who's going to tell them not to? You're not even going to know. It's like 100% Chinese ethnic population, one-party system. No information comes in or goes out that they don't want. How are you gonna even know what they're doing? So COVID is stage 1, I would argue, of Chinese plan to dominate America and colonize America by brute force using their military, Chinese Red Army. I mean, they have 1.2 billion people. I mean, they could easily send 100 million army to dominate and control and run this country. It's a one-party system. They have to obey. Every citizen has to obey. It's like FBI goes to a professor who teaches at Harvard and gets him to work as an intelligence gatherer for FBI, and bind him to a secrecy act. That's nothing compared to what China can do. China could force every one of its citizens to do whatever they want. What are they going to say? No. I mean, it's a communist dictator. They could have their lives killed, their children killed, their parents killed, their brothers and sisters killed. They have no choice. What, do you think China will have any problem killing family members of Chinese nationals in America? Yeah, they can get them to do everything they want. So that's coming. So I would say military invasion by China will come. China is testing out these cyber weapons right now, and it worked. really well in Australia. So before China invades America, it will probably use its cyber weapon for America, particularly Washington, D.C. It'll probably use it for all 50 states. And then it'll probably either destroy or incapacitate all the satellites. Unfortunately, President Trump is a little too late in creating his Space Force. I mean, he created it as soon as he got into office. Barack Obama or Clinton should have done that. But we're too late to the game. Our Space Force is not equipped enough to fend off any kind of space attack by China. So China will probably incapacitate every one of our satellites, and then cyber attack every one of our systems, which will completely be useless. And then they'll send in the military force. It'll be done like simultaneously. And we will not be able to fire a single nuclear weapon. And our nuclear submarines will not have communications, will not be able to communicate with any of its, because communications will be down. That's the point of cyber attack. They'll probably test it out a few more times before they attack us. They tested it out once with Australia. Maybe they'll test it out in one of European countries or, maybe on Japan. They'll probably, so you'll see that coming. Just keep tuned. And then eventually they're going to actually use everything that they have. They have now stealth fighters because they stole that technology from our stealth fighters. So, our 50 years of Air Force research that we spent billions of dollars on, they got it for like a penny. Yeah, because they stole it. And then they created their version of stealth bombers. And they're also now, using the same technology as create a stealth submarines, stealth ships, stealth tanks. Yeah, I mean, they're much more advanced in stealth technology than we are now, with all their PhDs from MIT and Caltech, or Chinese nationals who came back to China. Yeah, what do you think they've been working on for the past 3 decades? Yeah, it's just thank Harvard alumni, MIT alumni, Stanford alumni, Caltech alumni who are Chinese. Nationals when we get completely colonized. I thank God I'm Asian. When China occupies North America, like United States completely, they'll probably like let us go because we're Asian. So this is like where being an Asian works. But everyone else, every other race, they'll probably just like, yeah, I mean, you're in trouble. Yeah, I mean, I'm laughing because I don't know what to do. I mean, I can't cry in front of the screen, right? That would make me look like a wuss. So, I choose to laugh, but it's not really laughing. It's like a cry coming out as a laughter. Because this is coming from our beloved country, United States of America, because NSA has been so incompetent. NSA hasn't seen this biological weapon of mass destruction, COVID-19, coming at us. It did not do anything to prepare or block it. During 8 years of Obama, we had incompetence working for NSA. I say fire all 100% of the people who work at NSA now, put new people in there, because they're all incompetent. The fact that we've been stricken with COVID-19 and advanced biological weapon of mass destruction that's killing our country, and we can do nothing about it. We don't have any defense. We don't have any way to counteract it. We don't even have a way to retaliate to China. I mean, if I were head of CIA, you will have 1 million Chinese with COVID by now. Because I out of jujitsu then and send COVID back to make sure that there is a balance, mutual destruction, balance of power. I mean, I'm the president of Georgetown Collaborative Diplomacy Initiative. What keeps nations in check is balance. Without balance, any nation, whether dominant or not, loses its bargaining chip. Balance of power is absolutely necessary. If I were head of NSA, if I were head of CIA, you would have 1 million cases minimum of COVID-19 now in China, and there will be minimum of 60,000 deaths in China through COVID by now. Because I would have seen to it as a CIA director to make sure that there's a balance. If it's not COVID, I would send Ebola or malaria, whatever. There has to be a balance of a power, or there is no way United States is going to survive as a dominant power of America. The fact that China has not received any retaliation from the United States of America shows how incompetent Chinese United States National Security Agency is. It shows how incompetent the U.S. State Department is. It shows how incompetent the CIA is. You know, I applied to be a professor of CIA like 3 years ago or 4 years ago. They should have hired me, because had I been hired as head of or professor of CIA, training CIA operatives, I would have been in the Central Intelligence Agency. I would have talked about the coming COVID-19 threat, not COVID-19, but biological threat. I would have made sure the CIA, I would have submitted dossier after dossier to ensure that we prepare for that. You got to anticipate attacks. Primary prevention is the best thing. Prevent it before it comes. But now we're like in tertiary prevention. Secondary prevention is screening, knowing how much we're affected by it. Tertiary is we're trying to heal, and our tertiary prevention isn't working. So had I been hired as a CIA professor like 4 or 5 years ago, I would have made sure we would have retaliated the moment we surpassed China's numbers. Because you got to anticipate this. You don't, look at this. Look at the figures from Asia. Look at the figures for America. Indonesia, ranked 5, is 70,736. Total death is 3,417. If this were a natural virus, a third world country like Indonesia should have like what? At least 100,000 deaths. We're the most advanced medical science-wise, technology-wise, intellectual property-wise country in the world. But all of our intellectual property gets stolen by Chinese. Everything we spend 20, 30 years to build gets stolen in a day by Chinese. And that's why we're losing, because we don't know what to do. Under 8 years, Obama, wussy Democratic president, he is like, kumbaya, my lord, let's hug all of our enemies, president. Our nation has lost all of our capacity to counteract attacks by the enemy, whether it's China or Russia or Venezuela. I mean, Venezuela you don't have to worry too much about, but I mean, China can vector them and attack us through their vectoring system. They could have arm them with their advanced weapons, against which we have no way to win. So, yeah. Did you notice not too many people are dying in Venezuela from COVID-19? What do you think that is? Because Venezuela is a friend of China. That's why. Friend of us, Brazil, they're having 1,000 people die per day, because COVID-19 is a biological weapon of mass destruction that China has employed to kill all our enemies. Venezuela is a friend of China. That's why nobody's dying there in Venezuela. That's the whole point of this weapon by China, is to kill us and our friends and protect their friends. Korea happens to be their friend, South Korea and North Korea, because 5,000 of years of history is little brother. You know, so nobody's dying in South Korea or North Korea. You know, because this is a weapon created by China. They're not going to kill their little brother. You know, because for 5,000 years of Korean history, there was only one Korea. It's only like last 70 years that we have North Korea and South Korea. So China considers North and South Korea as their little brother. Yeah. So no one's dying in Korea. Of course not. Why would you kill your own little brother? Yeah, this is definitely a biological weapon. And numbers don't lie. Look at the numbers. If this were actually a natural virus, you should have what? 100 people, 1,000 minimum in Indonesia. You should have like 50,000 people dead in Bangladesh. I mean, these are what? Pakistan is an ally of China, right? They ally against India. I mean, there should be like 50,000 dead in Pakistan. India is getting there. Soon it's going to get to 50,000. Look at the discrepancy between India and all the rest of Asian countries, because China started having border skirmishes like a month ago. So about a month ago, India started to have a spike in COVID-19 cases because China has deployed their COVID weapon against India because of the border skirmishes. And probably China will hand deliver India to Pakistan. So the way I see this developing, and as you know, I'm the president of Georgetown Collaborative Diplomacy Initiative. so I understand diplomacy. I'm an expert of diplomacy by definition because I'm the president of Georgetown Collaborative Diplomacy Initiative, which is the primary group for students who are interested in diplomacy at Georgetown, people doing even master's and PhD in diplomacy. Yeah, so obviously I know exactly what I'm talking about in terms of diplomacy. And so China is going to attack America. That's my prediction, and I believe I'm absolutely correct. And as I said, if I were director of CIA, or if I were director of NSA, or any of the secret agencies, there would be 1 million, minimum 1 million cases of COVID-19, because I would have jujitsu'd it, I would have vectored it in to like urban areas like Shanghai or Hong Kong or Beijing. If I can't get into Hong Kong, Beijing, I'll probably send it to Hong Kong. But because Hong Kong is part of China now, hey, it's fair game. They're Chinese nationals. So I would have vectored it in the easiest route possible, probably through Hong Kong. I would have created a COVID crisis in Hong Kong, and then vector it in through the mainland, through Hong Kong, to Shanghai and Beijing. That's what I would have done. Obviously, I would not be telling you about it. It would have been secretly done, and officially Pompeo would go out there. Obviously, you'll know about it, but Pompeo would go out there and say, "Oh, we are so sorry that 1 million people in Hong Kong are infected with COVID-19, or like 200,000 cases of COVID-19 in Hong Kong and 200,000 cases of COVID-19 in Shanghai, 200,000 cases of COVID-19 in Beijing. Oh, this is so tragic." Obviously, that's what Pompeo would say. And we will disavow any knowledge of any kind of foul play. We'll say it's a virus. It's a global pandemic. What can we help you with, China? We love to help you. We'll send like 100 doctors to help your patients. That's what we'll do. Obviously, you're not an idiot. Any kind of power balancing measures you're taking as an intelligence agency, you don't admit to. You do it to keep balance in power, because without balance in power, U.S. will die. U.S. will be destroyed. That's what I'm predicting. In about 5 years, there will not be United States of America. There will be United States of China. China will be here with 100 military soldiers who are going to be living here permanently, controlling our country. For the Red Army, they have one army. They have one government. They have one party. It's a communist dictatorship. They have enough international students with Chinese national identity now to use them as leaders, the brains, to control the soldiers. Civilian governing bodies like, councils or, governors. It's going to be a colony. They have to have brains to control it. Every country, every state has Chinese PhD students that they could use. They already have the infrastructure there. All they have to do is military occupy the area. They have the infrastructure to control America. They have the number of soldiers they need, 100 million plus. They could enlist in matter of weeks, send to us with matter of weeks. And then they have the intellectual brains, Chinese PhD students in every state, in every university. Yeah, they'll be the intellectual brains to lead their military and implement policies from Beijing. How do you prevent something like that as an intelligence agency? Obviously, you have to maintain balance. Balance is key to any form of diplomacy. Whenever you come to the bargaining table, if you are not in balance, then you cannot bargain at the same level. That's rule number one in diplomacy. Bargaining chip. You have no bargaining chip if you have no balance. This is why US right now has no bargaining chip with China. This is why there's 100% chance that China will defeat us from a diplomatic angle, because we have no bargaining chip. This is why if I were head of NSA, in April when we had cases far above China, auto-deploying vector system, weapon system, human weapon system, viral weapon system, whatever we have in our national stockpile, would have deployed it by now. and then disavow knowledge of it. Like, it has to be a natural form of virus, like Ebola. Um, I'll probably send it from through an agent, CIA agent from one of the Ebola countries in Africa, flying into China, and then unleash Ebola in a densely populated urban area, and then they'll have an Ebola crisis there. Um, yeah, I mean, you if you don't balance the tragic crisis, you're not going to be able to bargain with your enemy. Obviously, my theory is that COVID-19 is a biological weapon made by China, and I think the data proves my theory. Obviously, if I'm head of CIA or NSA, I would have gotten this data. I would have done everything I need to do to get 60% certainty. With 60%, minimum 60% certainty, that we could deploy our weapons. You don't have to be 100% certain. You can never be 100% certain with intelligence. You can only be about, at best, 50, 60% certain. There's always a gray zone of 40%. So if you're 60% certain, you can power your nuclear weapons at a country with 60% certainty. I would argue, if it's required to defend your population for millions of deaths, it's ethically legitimate. As you know, I try to understand everything from a biblical ethical model, and Bible supports genocidal warfare. And because America is a Christian country, we dropped atom bomb in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, targeting civilian populations. That's not against the Bible. In fact, the Bible's preferred mode of warfare is targeting civilian populations. And that's why I would have no ethical problem deploying Ebola or whatever. It has to be a natural virus so that they won't think that it's a biological weapon. So Ebola, any kind of enhanced Ebola, or we must have some biological weapons in our stockpile. We didn't deploy them, obviously, because we're not hearing about it. But we should have deployed it in April when our cases were going at 4,000 deaths per day. And that's when it's a biological weapon. It's not happening in China. Why is it happening to us? And I mean, geez, you have to be really stupid as CIA or NSA or FBI if you think that this is not a biological weapon. Because if this were not biological weapon, there should be symmetry. Symmetry is crucial in healthcare. When we look at a patient and we examine the patient, when I examine a patient, what I have to look for? Are the eyes symmetric? Is the nose symmetric? Are the lips symmetric, left and right? Are the ears symmetric? Is the face symmetric? Symmetry is key to order. Because the world, the order, that natural universe is symmetric. So when there is not symmetry, there's abnormality. It's like cancer. If you have melanoma, how do we know it's a melanoma? Because your growth is not symmetric. It's abnormal. That's why we know it's an abnormal growth of your cell, because it's not symmetric. Anything that is not symmetric should raise red flags. That's rule number one in natural sciences. It's rule number one in healthcare. It's rule number one in nursing. It's rule number one in medicine. When things are not symmetric, it's abnormal. Now, look at this. Is this normal? Is there symmetry? No. Look at the data. It's not symmetric. It's asymmetric, which means it's not natural. There's an abnormality there. How are you going to explain the abnormality? Heerak Christian Kim, independent candidate for U.S. Congress in Virginia's 8th District. That's who I am. Says it's because it is lab modified. So they had a virus, they had a COVID virus, they modified it. They took away parts of the DNA. You can see that under the Gram Reaper. Took away parts of the DNA and then restructured it as a weapon. See, this is why you need to upgrade your CIA and NSA. Everybody in CIA, everybody in NSA, totally incompetent. Fire them all. You need to hire new people because our country is about to be destroyed. Next 5 years is crucial. This COVID-19 is going to be here forever. Okay, China may have antidote. China may not have antidote. My theory is that China does have antidote. So once they occupy America completely, they'll use this anecdote. That's my theory. But they're not going to use the anecdote until they achieve their goal. So that's my position, that China has antidote to this COVID-19. Because Chinese are very meticulous. That Chinese PhD students are among the most meticulous people in the world. And Chinese people, like if you go to like Chinese places, one of the things is they're very meticulous with things, and that's why they have the stereotype, and I'm using a stereotype, but stereotypes generally are stereotypes because there's truth behind it, right? That's what all the social scientists say. But there's a pattern to every ethnic group, and that becomes a stereotype. And not everybody in the ethnic group may confirm that stereotype, but majority do. Their ethnic identities, group identities that test and hold over a long period of time. So I think Mark Pompeo is in the right direction, identifying TikTok as a Chinese intelligence gathering system. Every country, every people in America who has TikTok, I'm sure every data from address, who lives there, all the personal data is now being analyzed in the Chinese intelligence agency, which is employing millions. I mean, it's a Chinese government, for example. I mean, you can employ whoever they want. I mean, they pay what, $1 per hour? And that's a lot of people you could hire. And your security agencies to monitor people. So that's going on. That's my theory, and I'm sure I'm right. Yeah. So I would argue that Pompeo is on the right track. There's definitely information gathering, because obviously you need to gather intelligence before you physically invade a country. And if some of these TikTok users are U.S. soldiers, FBI agents, their children, I mean, they know everything about you. Because once you use the system, they could. Once anybody goes into your system, you have access to all your hard drive. Yeah, all of your hard drive. Like I had a virus hit my computer. I clicked on something in my Georgetown email, a link. Ironically, it was, I don't know if this was related, but I clicked on a link to University of Alabama hospital. I received an email from University of Alabama saying that there are these nursing job opportunities. So I'm like, oh, that's kind of interesting. I'm curious what's there. So I clicked on it. And then my computer was like completely virus ridden. So obviously, I don't think it's University of Alabama, unless like National Security Agency or FBI wants to like, get all my information from my hard drive and all my internet, and all my surfing. Then, it's possible that NSA or FBI might have used like email quote from University of Alabama to do that. I mean, obviously we know what FBI and security intelligence agencies have done to patriots in America. So me being very conservative, I'm very conservative, and I want to bring America back to God. There may be homosexual, LGBTQ plus FBI agents or NSA agents who, because Grinnell is a gay guy who was an interim director of National Security Agency, right? The ambassador to Germany, the gay guy who was there for a few years interim. So there's gay guys there. There are probably tons of gay guys in U.S. security agency. Many of them probably would love to see America be destroyed, Christian America be destroyed. And this is why LGBTQ plus are a threat to U.S. intelligence because they hate Christian America. Uh, so, um, so you may be one of them who sent that email, couched in the form of University of Alabama, hospital email. But when I clicked on that link, my whole computer was like dead, and I suffered from that for like days. You know, um, but I employ countermeasures to neutralize the threat. But I suffered from that for days. Obviously, it could have been the Chinese, but I doubt it because um, Chinese. As I said, if once China occupies America, I'm sure they'll give me a job. Because like Korea is like, not that I want a job from China. Obviously, I don't want China to occupy, but every Chinese American, every Korean American, they're going to benefit from Chinese occupation from China of America. I mean, they'll have to they'll need people to work for them. So they'll probably offer every Chinese American, every Korean American a job. Yeah, the first thing I would do if I was a director of CIA is monitor every Chinese American, every Korean American. I would the FISA warrants monitor every single one. If because COVID-19, I'm saying is a biological weapon by China. So I would have to monitor every ethnic Chinese and ethnic Korean with a FISA to ensure, number one, to see if it is a biological weapon. Because if I monitor 100% of ethnic Chinese, ethnic Koreans, there will be an email or communication of some kind that could be a proof that this is a biological weapon. Because there are agents who are in the know, who are in America now, if it's an advanced biological weapon. So if you monitor 100% of the ethnic Chinese, ethnic Korean population, it's possible none of them are being used. I doubt it. If it is a biological weapon, you will have some people who are either Koreans ethnically who actually are Chinese spies, because there are 3 million ethnic Koreans in China. And how are you going to know they're not Chinese? I mean, I personally know like dozens of Koreans who are from China, Chinese nationals, and they're like 3 generations Chinese nationals. I'm just some of them work for Chinese Red Army, but they're here. They go to Korean churches. They immigrate to America. So I would blanket monitor 100% of the Koreans, ethnic Koreans, and 100% of the ethnic Chinese. That's what I would do. Because this is a security threat. I mean, you're assuming that it's not a biological weapon. I'm assuming it is. And if I'm working for CIA or NSA, I would get a FISA order to monitor 100% of ethnic Chinese, ethnic Korean, just in case that this is a biological weapon. Because I'm arguing that in 5 years, China will invade America with 100 million soldiers and occupy it, colonize it. So I'm going to be, if this threat is serious, one, I would want evidence, right? I need to know if this is true. So how am I going to gather evidence? I'm going to have a FISA order to get evidence. This is a state of national emergency. We're having, 1,000 people die per day. This is worse than war. So obviously there is a reason to get a FISA order, and the courts will have to grant it to the intelligence agency because this could be a biological weapon. And I, as a director of CIA or NSA, would argue that it is a biological weapon, and we'll get the FISA orders for 100% of ethnic Chinese, ethnic Koreans to monitor, including House of Representative members, senators who are ethnic Chinese or ethnic Korean. I mean, that's what intelligence agencies are supposed to do. I'm not saying as a director of CIA that they are spies, whether they are involved, but they could be. I mean, you have to think about national security. We have 330 million American citizens, lives to protect. I'm sure majority of Koreans and Chinese Americans are loyal Americans. But it's not the 90% loyal Americans that I'm worried about. It's the 0.001% who are acting as agents of China that I'm worried about. So in order to get them, I have to monitor everyone. Do you see what I'm saying? So that's what I would have done. See, CIA is so backward. Why do you think I applied for the CIA professor job several years ago. The CIA doesn't know what it's doing. FBI doesn't know what it's doing. There are so many gay people, LGBTQ people in there. They're messing everything up for America. They are the problem in America. LGBTQ plus are a national security threat to America because they're so bent on advancing LGBTQ plus nation. They're not interested in the Chinese threat. They're not interested in protecting US citizens. They're just interested in advancing gay rights. Like Grinnell, I'm sure his primary interest is pushing gay rights. He's a Republican. Ambassador to Germany, was recalled and was interim director of National Security Agency in year 2020. I'm sure his primary interest not is in making America go back to God, because he's gay. He's a gay American. He's gay. He doesn't want America to go back to America. He will do everything in his power, Grinnell, to prevent America from going back to Jesus. Because Romans chapter 1 says homosexuality is unnatural and evil. Why would a gay CIA agent, gay FBI agent, gay US Marshal, gay NSA agent, gay head of intelligence Grinnell want America to go back to God? His priority number one is to ensure that America does not get back to God. That's why I would fire every LGBTQ plus FBI agent, CIA agent, Homeland Security agent, NSA agent as a matter of principle to ensure national security, because they're not interested in protecting Americans, 90% of whom are Christians following the Bible. They want to advance gay rights, LGBTQ nation. Their fidelity to America is suspect. They pose a national security threat. Talk to your gay friends. See what they talk about. They're interested in primarily in pushing gay rights. That's all they care about. They don't care about anything else. They want to take jobs away from Christians. They want to push gay rights. Do you want them working for the FBI? Do you want them working for the CIA? Do you want them working for the NSA? Do you want them working for Homeland Security? Because they're going to be the mole. They're going to sell out America to China. If anyone sells out America to China, it's going to be one of these LGBTQ people. Maybe Grinnell probably sent all of our nation's secrets to China because he doesn't like Christian America. So people like Grinnell rather see America destroyed, and he's Republican, GOP. I'm so glad I'm like independent, so I don't have to see Grinnell's face in any Republican setting, because gay people like him would destroy America. They would destroy America because they want to destroy Christian America. And that's their primary interest. They're going to use their NSA, FBI, Homeland Security positions to do it. So our national security priority number one is to fire every LGBTQ plus individuals from FBI, CIA, Homeland Security, NSA, any intelligence agencies, Pentagon, because without firing them, our nation is not secure. How do you think this COVID-19 got into America and is like infecting and killing so many of us? Our security agents are compromised by LGBTQ nation. It's compromised. We need to secure our nation. It starts with firing every LGBTQ plus in our security and intelligence agencies. That is absolutely necessary, step number one. Unfortunately, there are a lot of gay Americans, particularly among like campaign managers, like these 20-year-olds, like closet homosexuals, who are like campaign managers for Republican senators, Republican House of Representative members, Republican governors, Republican mayors. These campaign managers are like 20-something closet gay people. This is the problem with America. Why do you think we have the Lincoln Project with these closet gay homosexuals, or maybe outed homosexuals in Republican Party who wants Trump to lose the election? Why do you think this is happening? Because their priority is LGBTQ plus rights. That's what they want. They will do anything to advance LGBTQ rights. That's why they call themselves LGBTQ nation. Why do they call themselves that? They're a security threat to the United States of America. National security threat in our current time of national crisis. Our national priority number one is to fire every single intelligence agents, in the Navy intelligence, Army intelligence, Air Force intelligence, space intelligence, especially Space Force intelligence, Marines, who are LGBTQ plus nation, because they will sell our nation out in order to make sure that we do not become a Christian nation or remain a Christian nation. As you know, my official candidate motto is bring America back to God. I want America to come back to God, so that's my motto. I want America to be whole again, because now America is diseased. America is right now diseased with LGBTQ proliferating every step of the way. You have public school teachers who are trying to convince your children to have gay sex at age 12. This is what's going on in your public schools. This country is diseased because of LGBTQ plus. I want America to be whole again, and that's why I'm running for U.S. Congress in Virginia's 8th District, Arlington, Alexandria, Falls Church, and Fairfax County. Because I want our nation to go back to a place where children who are 12 years old are not force-fed gay sex literature by their English teachers in their classrooms. Or their PE teachers are telling their children, these gay PE teachers or lesbian PE teachers are telling their fifth graders that they should consider sex change in their sex education classes. Yeah, America needs to become whole again. America needs cure of personalities, means like treatment of the whole person. That Georgetown University, which is a Catholic university, emphasizes. Obviously, Georgetown University as a Catholic university opposes gay marriage and homosexuality because that's the official Catholic position. And as Supreme Court ruled this week, Georgetown University can fire every single professor who supports gay marriage if it wants. It should, I would argue, fire anybody who pushes gay marriage at Georgetown. Because why should Catholic students be subject to gay propaganda at a Catholic university? How does that jive with the Catholic mission of Georgetown University, Catholic vision of Georgetown University? How can you have a strong and healthy Catholic church when Catholic universities have professors who are brainwashing Catholic children to become homosexuals? How many Catholic students do you know who became lesbian or gay in a Catholic college? Why do you think that happens? Because there are Catholic university professors who are gay and lesbian who try to encourage their college students to become gay and homosexual. So they went through 12 years of Jesuit school system in New Jersey or in Pennsylvania or in Delaware or in Virginia, and they go to a Catholic university like, Loyola University of Chicago, and they become gay because there are gay professors pushing homosexuality. Why should this happen? Why should this happen in a Catholic university? Is this why all those Catholics work hard to build Catholic universities, so Catholic universities become vectors for gay brainwashing at the college level? Is that why Catholic universities exist, to brainwash everybody to accept gay marriage? No, this is why I'm glad that Supreme Court ruled that Christian institutions can fire teachers for being gay. And Catholic universities, all Jesuit universities, should fire every professor who's gay, lesbian, queer, bisexual, and transgender. That is the right thing to do. Because how can you say you're a Catholic university when you allow leaders in your university who are gay, transgender, lesbian, queer, bisexual to teach? What are they going to teach? That Bible is correct? That Romans chapter 1 is correct? Of course not. They're going to teach against Romans chapters 1. Give me a 5 on this. Give me a 5. Because you know I'm right. Give me a 5. Because that is the right thing to do. We don't want your children to become gay or lesbian because of the brainwashing that goes on in a Catholic school, Catholic college. We don't want your children to have sex change and become transgender, cut off their penis and become plant a vagina surgically there because they went to a Catholic university where you have transgender, trans people teaching them that this is the thing they should consider. No, we need to fire every gay, lesbian, transgender, queer, bisexual professors from Georgetown University, Marymount University, Boston College, Villanova Fordham University, Loyola University of Chicago, Loyola Marymount in Los Angeles, Xavier University in Ohio, Dominican College in Rhode Island. We need to do this because it's the right thing to do. Christian universities should fire LGBTQ individuals from professor positions so that they do not brainwash our Christian children. As you know, I'm running for U.S. Congress in Virginia's 8th District. My name is Heerak Christian Kim. I'm an independent candidate for U.S. Congress in Virginia's 8th District. I hope that you'll vote for me because you know what I'm saying is right. You know what I'm saying is right, that Catholic universities should value Catholic principles like marriage between man and a woman, which is sacrament of holy matrimony. You know I'm right. So you should vote for me. All the Catholics in Arlington, Alexandria Falls Church, and Fairfax County who love Bible, who want to go to heaven, should vote for me, including all the Baptist Christians, Presbyterian Christians. Well, you know, most of America is Christian. Like over 320 million Americans are Christian, regardless whether you're Asian, Chinese, African American, Hispanic, Indian, you know, Native American, you're Christian. Yeah, you should all vote for him because we need to bring America back to God. This is ridiculous. What's going on in America is ridiculous, and you know it. You know I'm right. And as you know, my 3 campaign promises, number 1 campaign promise is, if you elect me to U.S. Congress in November 3rd, 2020, the very first thing I will do is create a bipartisan coalition to legalize homosexuality in America. It's the right thing to do. The Bible demands it. Romans chapter 1 is clearly there, demanding it. My campaign promise number 2 is I will form a bipartisan coalition to legalize abortion by law. A lot of people talked about it. Reagan talked to death about it. He did nothing. At least President Trump marched with March for Life. But we need to actually change the law. Let's get things done. Let's get things done. So vote for Heerak Christian Kim for U.S. Congress. Who will get things done? None of this dilly-dallying. Let's get things done. That's why you'll vote for me. Can I get a 5? Can I get a 5? Give me a 5. Can I get a 5? Give me a 5. Yeah. And my campaign promise number 3 is I want to create a better condition for African American Christians and Hispanic Christians. Majority of, like nearly 100% of Hispanics are Christians, and a lot of African American, majority are Christians, and they're very conservative Christians. You know, they're evangelical or practicing Catholics in Hispanic communities and African American communities. So I want to elevate their life. You know, I want to work to improve healthcare and education systems in inner city, particularly focusing at African American Hispanic populations. Barack Obama did none of that. He didn't care about the inner city. He didn't care about African Americans who are suffering in the inner city when he was president for 8 years. He did nothing for inner city for 8 years. Yeah, which is tragic because he could have, if he devoted that and made it his priority, he could have solved that problem in 8 years. Yeah, so China and America is at conflict, and President Trump is the right president for this time, because this is, as I'm postulating, as I'm saying, hypothesizing, is a weapons of biological weapon of mass destruction attack by China that is orchestrated, strategically targeted, part of its 5-year plan to colonize the United States of America. Just watch. You know, I've studied history, 10,000 years of history, and I know how nations act. Because, you know, history is there. This is how nations act. It takes measured strategic steps to occupy a nation. Yeah. That's coming. Wait and see. Now, today's theme is COVID-19 seeks to infect and kill. Obviously, it's a biological weapon. That's what China wants to happen so that they could go to the next phase where they're sending in 100 million Chinese Red Army soldiers to occupy all of our 50 states, every major city, and every major town. And so that's coming. Yeah. So what is the current status in the USA? I have three key articles that are relevant for us right now. First article is California and Florida hit record for average daily coronavirus cases as US hospitalizations surge. So this biological weapon by China, I'm calling it biological weapon. Obviously, it's a theory of mine, um, which I believe is correct. And this article was written by Jasmine Kim and Nate Rettner in CNBC today, July 9th. And the key quote from that article is, of the 25 states, 13 hit record highs in average hospitalizations. 13 states in America are hitting record hospitalization. I mean, geez. I'm predicting, Heerak Kim, that's who I am, independent candidate for US Congress and Virginia's 8th District. I'm predicting that there's going to be 10,000 people who die per day in US, and there will be 1 million deaths by end of August at this rate, especially because schools are going to open up in August and the infections are going to spread. They include Arizona, California, South Carolina, and Texas. Florida only tracks the number of people who have been hospitalized since the beginning of the outbreak, not those currently in hospitals with COVID-19, according to COVID Tracking Project. South Carolina is getting up there. You know, death is coming from South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia. I'm in Arlington, Virginia. I'm predicting that COVID-19 death in Virginia will start skyrocketing. Just watch. Wait until Arlington Public Schools, Alexandria Public Schools, Fairfax County Public Schools, Falls Church Public Schools open. You're gonna have thousands of children dying, their parents dying from COVID. It's going to be a big mess in this country. It's going to be tragic. And that's why I'm telling you, parents who love your children, to call your superintendent, to call your principal, or email them, to email your county board members or city council members to close down the public schools for fall 2020. There's technology for remote learning. 100% of the courses can be taught online. Every student in Arlington Public Schools has an iComputer, like a iBook. I mean, that's an expensive computer, several $1,000s. Every student has one. There's no way that you must require these students to come in for classes. They could have 100% of the classes remotely, and we're not going to have increase in deaths, abnormal increase in death. But that's coming if you want to have students meet in class. Abnormal increases in death will come. And it's going to be tragic. That's coming in the fall, this fall, during flu season. Thousands of children in Virginia's 8th District dying. Tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, even potentially being infected and dying in Virginia's 8th District, Virginia 10th District, Virginia 11th District, in Northern Virginia. That's coming. That's why you should write to your superintendent, school board members that you elected, or you did not elect, but they are there, or city council members, or county board members, and ask them to close the school down. You're going to regret it when your child dies in like November for not having done anything to prevent that from happening. You know you're going to regret it. You know, primary prevention is doing things to prevent any infection from occurring. If you If the school doesn't open and your child doesn't have to go to school every day, your child cannot get infected. Well, your child can get infected at home, or if the child is playing outside, So if your child is playing at home and has friends over or something, obviously there is still ways to get infected because it's person-to-person transmission. If you play with other people, of course you could get infected. But you gotta have strict rules in your house not to have other children over. Second article, UC Berkeley, fall reopening in jeopardy after 47 new COVID-19 cases linked to week of frat parties. And this is from the Mercury News, written by Aaron Wu, that dated today, July 9th. And the key quote from there is, at the rate we are seeing increases in cases, it's becoming harder to imagine bringing our campus community back in the way we are envisioning. UC Berkeley University Health Services Medical Director Hannah Hart and Assistant Vice Chancellor Guy Nicolette wrote in a message to the campus community on Wednesday. That was yesterday. 47 new cases. I mean, can you imagine if Georgetown University opened? You could have hundreds of people infected with COVID and dozens dying with COVID in a matter of weeks since the start of school. So I'm calling on Georgetown University to close the campus down and have 100% remote learning. That's the right thing to do in order to save lives. First of all, students can get infected now. The mutated version of COVID-19 infects teens and those in 20s. There have been multiple people who are in their 20s who die from COVID today. This can happen to students at Georgetown University. What are you going to do when dozens of students drop dead at Georgetown from COVID? What are you going to do? How are you going to break the news to their parents? Or can you imagine what's coming when the children die? What are you going to do? Of course, Chinese Red Army would love to see all the international students in place throughout the United States of America during COVID-19. According to my model of Chinese invasion of America, that's absolutely necessary for China because they need the brain power here. I mean, thankfully, President Trump is smart enough to see through Chinese intelligence maneuvering. And that's why you should thank God President Trump is the president right now. Because if you had Hillary Clinton as president, China would already be occupying America by now. But President Trump wants to send Chinese students back to China, which is the right thing to do at this moment of our national crisis when our nation is not secure. We don't know how Chinese international students fit in to our national security threat right now. We just don't know. Any one of them can be activated by the Chinese Red Army at any second. When you activate US citizens in China, if US had an intention to invade and occupy China, of course you could knock on the door of a Chinese American student in China on a junior year abroad, and you could activate them to work for the FBI or CIA. That's what United States will do. So why don't you think that China will do the same? Any country would do that when they're serious about dominating another country. So this is just a realistic, honest description of what could happen. And from the point of diplomacy and international conflict resolution, then we need to talk about it. This is a legitimate topic of academic discussion. We need to talk about it on the platform. And so I'm going to talk about it because not too many people are talking about it. I'm going to talk about it. If COVID-19 is a biological weapon of mass destruction created in a Wuhan lab to destroy America and America's allies because of the intention of China to occupy us within the next 5 years, then obviously any Chinese national in America can be activated for service in Chinese Red Army. I don't think that's like a harsh thing for me to say. I think it's a rational deduction. And from the point of diplomacy scholarship, as I said, I'm the president of Georgetown Collaborative Diplomacy Initiative. I think I have the right to make this assertion based on evidence. I could make a hypothesis based on the data that we have. And that's what intelligence does. That's what diplomacy study is, right? Most of it is theoretical, at least the theoretical realm is highly speculative. It has to be, because you don't have confirmation, because that's what intelligence is. You're not going to get confirmation on intelligence. But nations have to operate on intelligence that are not confirmed for their national security and their national survival, especially in times of conflict. And this is why I think President Trump should send 100% of the Chinese international students back to China as a matter of policy and law, because there is a likelihood that this was created in a Chinese lab. That likelihood is greater than not, looking at the data. So I 100% support President Trump's effort to send international students back. I think President Trump is trying to be fair to everybody, so all international students go back. But I think President Trump should actually pass a law specifically targeting China and saying we're going to send 100% of the Chinese international students back. We're going to revoke all of their visas, send them back. They could still get their degrees from from China if they could study from China, but their visas for the United States of America will be unilaterally revoked, 100% of them. That's what Pompeo should do. That's what Trump should do. I fear that there are too many establishment Republicans who are not willing to take the steps to secure our nation. And that's why you need to send me to Congress. And a lot of voters in Arlington, Alexandria, Falls Church, and Fairfax County work for the US government. Some are involved in the US secret agencies. I'm right. You know that you need me to go to US Congress because things are not being done. This is a serious situation we're in America. This is a situation of national crisis, national emergency, like we have never known. This crisis is far worse crisis than when we were in World War II. Because when we were in World War II, people in America were safe. This is a target and destruction in our country that is not found anywhere else to this extent. It's a targeted attack, as I'm postulating, as I'm arguing, a targeted attack with a biological weapon of mass destruction by China. We need to retaliate in kind. If you're not willing to retaliate in full measure, obviously, as I said, if I was head of CIA, 1 million Chinese would be infected with Ebola or some kind of a deadly biological agent by now. You have to balance the countries. You're not going to survive as a country if you do not balance the powers. And I think some people in U.S. State Department are still operating under Obama premises that all of us are in it together. No, we're not in it together. Nobody in China is dying. Nobody in Korea is dying. North Korea and China, South Korea. Only we're dying. And our allies like Brazil and India. The more President Trump talk about India being our friend, the more China is going to attack them, as a matter of policy. Because China is attacking all of us and all of our friends. So in a way, when President Trump called India our friend, it's like a death sentence because China's like, oh, we better target India, friend of America, and that's why it started sparking months ago. For several months, there weren't any cases really. There's few, under 1,000 dead. And then once President Trump started talking about India as a friend and they had border skirmishes, that's when the death rate started skyrocketing, cases and death rate. Yeah, you have to understand the world using a framework that is realistic, right? So the question is, what instrument are you using to assess the situation? Is your instrument valid or not valid? You have to use the research technique, the scientific method, every step of the way. You have to analyze the data, and you have to logically deduce factors based on the numbers. And then you have to make conclusions that are feasible within the framework that you have, um, and the models that you're using. And today I'm using the model of diplomacy, and I'm offering solution to make our country secure and viable in our bilateral conflict with China. It's necessary. We need to balance the powers. Without balancing the powers, our nation is doomed to destruction. That's the rule number one of diplomacy, is you need to balance the powers. Like if your enemy is increasing their threat, you need to increase your threat. If your enemy strikes one location in your interest site, you need to attack one interest minimum. If you're not balancing, diplomacy fails. And viability fails. You see, our CIA and NSA is so incompetent, they're not able to balance our situations. That's the problem. Obviously, you don't have to talk about it. You could do things like get 1 million Chinese infected with Ebola. Don't talk about it. Pretend like you didn't do it. That's the point of intelligence. You do it and you pretend like you didn't do it. You think China is going to say, oh, we infected you with COVID-19. Look at all those Americans dying. You think China's going to talk about it? They will never talk about it. They may talk about it once America becomes a colony of of China, but they may still not talk about it. Because there are 100+ nations in the world. This could be a forever secret. We don't know. Yeah. So I would say you should consider us in a national crisis, and this national crisis is predicted not to end forever. Vaccine will not be developed because this is not a normal virus. It's a genetically modified biological weapon that's highly complex. That's not to say there isn't a way to neutralize it, but with our 30-year behind genetics knowledge, we're not going to find it. As I said, China probably already has an antidote. Because whenever you create a weapon, obviously you create an antidote, right? And you got a biological agent. Yeah. But yeah, so we're headed toward destruction right now. And so I think that President Trump is going in the right direction. He should take the next step and pass an executive order revoking every Chinese international student visas for the sake of our national security. Obviously, I have a lot of friends who are Chinese nationals who are in America as students, and I love them. But I am speaking now as leader, national leader of the American people. I'm running for U.S. Congress in Virginia's 8th District. And as much as I have personal friends who are Chinese nationals, many of whom are international students in America, as a national leader of the United States of America, trying to secure our national security, I need to look out for our national interest. And that's why I'm recommending to President Trump officially through this show, and President Trump, I'm sure you're watching, to issue an executive order revoking all visas by Chinese nationals so they could repatriate to China. That is the safest way for us to start securing our nation, because whenever China deploys their weapon, they have to do it generally through their nationals. If none of their nationals are in America, it becomes that much harder for them to deploy a biological weapon. My theory is this: once you issue an executive order to repatriate every Chinese national who are not U.S. citizens, green card holders, we're going to flatten the curve. Because this is a biological weapon, I'm sure there are problems there. Looking at United Kingdom, Spain, and Italy, it is possible to go to like almost zero. which seems to indicate that this biological weapon has a limited range, which means they would have to redeploy the biological weapon again and again, which means they'll have to deliver the load, biological load, weapons load, through human agents. So if you repatriate all the Chinese nationals by executive order, my prediction is that we will no longer have a COVID crisis by Christmas. Like if you repatriate 100% of Chinese nationals who don't have green card or U.S. citizen in, let's say, next 2 weeks, my prediction is, because if this is a biological weapon that is deployed by China, if my theory is correct, then by December, we would have flattened the curve in terms of COVID. We'll still have people dying from flu and strep throat, but I think we would have flattened the curve by December, because this is not a flu virus. It's not seasonal. This is 365 years virus. So we need to synthesize all the data, right? We look at China, we look at Italy, Spain, and England, where curve is fairly flat. We see New York, where curve is fairly flat, which seems to indicate that the first viral load that China deployed as their COVID-19 weapon is losing its effectiveness. So obviously, I bet China wants it to be forever, but because it's a genetically modified weapon, it has limited range in terms of time. Obviously, research needs to be done to figure these things out. And there can be multiple versions of the virus with multiple capacities, with multiple different targets. I think the second load, what I call the second peak of COVID, is a different viral weapon that targets teens and 20s. That was unleashed recently during the George Floyd protests, which is like Antifa. Maybe they have leaders who are working in conjunction with Chinese government. It's a communist organization, right? Socialist, Antifa. So, I mean, you may have domestic terrorists working with Chinese government, but most likely they will be Chinese nationals. I don't think China will trust any Antifa who are not Chinese nationals. So operatives, official operatives of the Chinese Red Army. But this is why I would encourage President Trump to send every Chinese student back to China, revoke all of their visas as a matter of national security measure, just to see what happens. If my theory is correct, and I believe that it is, if you revoke 100% of the Chinese national visas, you may have to revoke all the Korean national visas too, from South Korea as well, because they may be working with China, and we don't know. We don't know what's going on in the background. Because I think the current government is very pro-China, so they may be doing this officially as a bilateral government agreement. You don't know. I mean, worse things have happened. I'm Korean, I love Korea, but people do stupid things for politics. People do stupid things for power and wealth and money. So I wouldn't put it behind the liberal politicians in Korea to make alliances, even with target of occupying America. I wouldn't put it behind. I think that has to be on the table for intelligence and national security purposes. So I would, as a matter of policy, revoke all student visas for international students in China and Korea. But, the way you could do it is just revoke all international student visas, pointing to national crisis. That way you don't look like you're targeting a single country or a single ethnic group, because you could be called a racist. Yeah, you should not care whether people call you racist in time of national crisis. What's important is you protect your people. And we have people dying 1,000 per day, and it's increasing. when the students come back, Chinese students will be bringing next load of COVID-19 viruses that will be different from the ones that were unleashed in the second peak. And as I said, it's going to kill 1 million people per month. So that's my theory. And I think I have enough evidence there to support the theory, because no one's dying in China, no one's dying in Korea. I think that alone is a strong support for my theory that this is a biological weapon China is using against America. And the fact that there are no cases almost in New York shows that this biological weapon has limited power. China thought it perfected it, now it's finding out it's not so perfect. So they have to redeploy the biological weapon again and again, maybe modified versions of it. They're probably modifying next version in Wuhan lab right now in China. So President Trump, I would encourage you to take my advice. Obviously, you do what you want, you're the president. But if my theory is correct, and I believe that it is, simply by revoking all visas by Chinese nationals, I believe that you will flatten COVID-19 curve by Christmas in America. That's my theory. Because the current course of COVID-19 will play itself out. But just like New York, it probably has limited time of survival. So just like New York is kind of flat now, I would say in like 3-4 months, it'll be flat. So as long as we don't have any new load coming in through international students from China, not all, but some of them may be Chinese Red Army operatives. You don't know who's an operative, who's not. It's kind of like when US students go to study in Russia, some of them are deputized by FBI to be FBI operatives. I mean, that's a common knowledge. So we do it to China. Of course, China could do it to us. I mean, that's what goes on in intelligence warfare. So I'm not saying anything like that's like anti-China. I mean, I'm saying China, US does that too. This is something that both countries do. But right now, as a national leader of the United States, Heerak Christian Kim, independent candidate for US Congress who wants to be a congressman, I'm looking out for the interest of America. So President Trump, why don't you try what I'm suggesting and see? I believe I'm right, that if you revoke visas of all international students, you'll prevent the spread. You'll prevent the third load, but I'm calling the third peak of COVID-19 weapons of biological weapons of mass destruction from being deployed by the Chinese, because it has to be done people to people, person to person. In the fall, when school starts back up in colleges throughout America, all 3,000 plus colleges, curve would be flat by December, COVID curve. And obviously block all airplanes coming in from China. Monitor any kind of international traffic. Because you need people to unleash the load in a crowded area. It's a biological weapon. You need a crowded area to unload the weapon. And virus is not going to survive by itself. It has limited time of survival, like what? Anywhere from 24 hours to like 40, like 1 day to 1 week. So people have to be infected within that period of unleashing the biological weapon. So any Chinese operative has to find the heavily, densely populated area to unleash it for maximum effectiveness. Whether it's during George Floyd protest, right? In areas that had less of a peak in the first peak. Because obviously, if China is interested in destroying every inch of America, they will send waves into areas which are less affected previously, right? Because if they want to occupy all 50 states, they have to destabilize all 50 states in every city, every town. So their COVID-19 attacks will target areas that hasn't been targeted before. Because if this is a natural way COVID-19 works, then how come like remote areas in England are not seeing a COVID-19 spread? Remote areas in Italy and Spain are not seeing COVID-19 spread. If this behaves like a normal virus, then what's happening in America should be happening in every country in the world right now. How come it's not happening? Well, how come it's only happening in America? I mean, that should raise some serious question marks, don't you think? Well, that's why I think my theory is correct. So I would encourage you, President Trump and Secretary of State Pompeo, to revoke all visas to Chinese nationals, work visas, student visas, all visas. And then see. And then by December, my theory is we won't need a vaccine. Curve would have been flattened. That's my theory, so I think it's worth a try. Because what other solution do you have? You have this vaccine project going. It's not going to materialize. You're having 1,000 persons die every day. The second peak started around Memorial Day, strangely, and it's targeting a completely different demographic population than the first peak. First peak targeted mostly old people. Second peak is targeting mostly young people. Virus could have mutated, and that is a possibility that I'm also accepting. And there could be combination. Virus could be mutated, and there could be a second load that is specifically targeting the young people. So multiple things can happen. However, without a new load of viral weapon of COVID-19 deployed by China, you cannot have this kind of peak. So one thing I'm pointing at specifically is the low numbers in New York right now. That's strange because there's a lot of movement within America. A lot of people go to New York. How come New York is not seeing a sudden rise? Isn't that strange? So it seems like the new biological weapon has been deployed in different parts of the country by China by using their human operatives. And as I said, if you reduce mode of transmission, you can flatten this. Because every epidemiologist, every healthcare expert, every public health expert knows mode of transmission, right? The agent is necessary to transmit this virus. You get rid of the agent, you do not have an epidemic. And that's what I'm saying. Just try my theory out. By December, it's going to be all gone. Yeah, just monitor entry into this nation. Yeah, because, well, what is China going to do? Like bribe a white American in America to deliver a COVID-19 viral weapon? You see what I'm saying? You know how hard it is to do that? So you get rid of the potential agents of delivery of this biological COVID-19 weapon. You flatten the curve, right? So that's what's good thing about my theory is there's a solution to this whole problem that we're experiencing, which is not being experienced by Italy, Spain right now, which is strange. Don't you think that's really strange? That somehow we're going through a second peak, but Italy and Spain aren't? Don't you think that's strange? That's another evidence for my theory that it's a biological weapon. So try my solution, and then you will have a solution. Obviously, I feel compelled to propose this theory and recommend this solution because I care about American lives. We are in a national emergency. 1,000 people are dying per day. And this virus originated from China. I'm arguing that it's created in a lab as a biological weapon. I believe I'm right. So for the sake of our national security, for the purpose of saving millions of American lives, I'm proposing this recommendation to President Trump. to issue an executive order to revoke all visas to Chinese nationals, and then monitor our status as a nation vis-a-vis COVID-19 until December. If we have flattened the curve, then you know I was right. I think it's worth a try. I would argue that if you don't try, the third load of biological weapons will be deployed when the schools start and colleges start by people flying in. If you want to take the risk and be my guest, I feel I'm not right. Maybe you're convinced as well, people who are watching now. Yeah, next article. After 2 quarantines, COVID-19 still found a way to kill Louisville nurses. And that's from September 9, 2020. Louisville Courier Journal, written by Grace Schneider. And the important quote is this: the deadly coronavirus seemed to hover over Dana Davis as the illness spread into Kentucky, then into the hospital where she worked. He finally caught and killed the 51-year-old nurse early this month. Dana became one of the handful of healthcare nurses in Kentucky to die from the virus, in the first in any of Baptist hospitals. So you see, nurses are dying from COVID, and a lot of new nurses will die in the summer, especially those in 20s, because this new load is like targeting 20s. Now, if President Trump doesn't revoke all the Chinese visas, then, as I said, my theory is a third load of biological weapons will be deployed by China, and you're going to see a third peak from the third load of biological weapons that are deployed in late August and September, and 1 million Americans will die per month during the flu season. I told you, there's a 5-year plan. End of the 5-year plan, China wants to colonize America. Well, let's see if I'm wrong. Yeah, let's say I'm wrong. Like, let's say President Trump doesn't revoke all the Chinese visas, and then we have an influx of international students. Let's see what happens in September. Let's see I'm wrong. Because they'll have to release their loads soon after they arrive. But they can't hold them into their dormitories. So as soon as they arrive, they have to release it within probably a few days. Yeah, so I'm saying, the third peak will start in late August and September. So let's see if I'm right. Yeah, and obviously you'll know it because there'll be a sudden spike in areas which didn't have a spike. Like Miami, Dallas, Houston. Yeah. Yeah, that's how you know when there's something strange there. Yeah, so anyway, thank you for coming and stopping by to see my show. Obviously, this does more good for you than me. I created this show to save you and your children from COVID-19. As you can see, I give you insights that other people cannot even fathom because they have limited intellectual abilities to understand data that they're seeing. But as I synthesize the data and explain it in ways that you can understand, using language that are ordinary language, you can come to appreciate the possibility that you see. And the hope is, as long as President Trump listens to my advice, if my theory is correct, which I believe it is, we'll flatten the curve without a vaccine by December. Let's see. I'm hoping President Trump will do the right thing and issue an executive order, in the name of our national emergency, barring all international students from coming to America for fall semester. If my theory is correct, we should not have any COVID. We should not have, we will still have COVID-19 spreading because, unfortunately, there are enough cases now that if college is open, students from Florida, Texas, and California who have COVID will spread it, right? So there is that unfortunate element. So it could still spread through people who are spreading it now. It's going through cycles among different individuals. through person-to-person spread. But still, I would say, the crisis will not be that great. And I think my theory is correct because if you see this kind of multiplication of students getting COVID, it happened in UC Berkeley um, and at University of Washington, both of which has a lot of Chinese nationals studying with their student visas. So you can always activate one of them. Chinese Red Army could activate any one of them and then deliver the viral like in a fraternity party. Just to test out the effectiveness, because once, Georgetown is planning to open, so they have to test it out before they actually release it. So I'm arguing that what's happening in University of Washington and UC Berkeley, there's like 47 cases at UC Berkeley. China is testing out their new virus for fall. They're trying to perfect it. Yeah, so you'll see this happening in every university in August and September. Yeah, I mean, this is like phase 3 of Chinese attack of America through COVID-19. Every colleges in America with a viral spread. Because they have to make sure the young people die. So when Chinese Red Army comes, there won't be any young people to inscript into military service. I mean, if you're going to invade a nation, the greatest threat to your invasion is 20-year-old individuals who can join the army or be conscripted to army in short notice and fight for you. And that's why this is why the phase is getting younger. If China wants to invade America, they have to neutralize the population that could be conscripted to serve in the military. Right? Do you see what I'm saying? It's a holistic program of China. They're very careful, and they're taking steps very cautiously before they invade us. They're not going to invade us with like all of our 20-somethings intact, who could be like conscripted and they could use their M16s to ward off Chinese invasion. I mean, you could have millions of Chinese casualty. Do you think China wants any casualty? Yeah, so they're trying to neutralize us. So you're going to be horrified by what comes in the fall. Because if my theory is correct, you should have like maybe 1 million plus college-age students dying from COVID in the fall. If my theory is correct. I'm hoping I'm wrong, but I don't think I am. Let's see, let's see what happens in the fall. If you open up and you don't revoke all the international visas, let's see what happens. I think I'm going to be right. Yeah, let's see. Keep watching this show. I will share my expert insight. I'm an expert historian. And I've researched diplomacy for over 20 years at the expert level. Delivered academic papers on history and diplomacy. And so, yeah, you're lucky that, Heerak Christian Kim, that's who I am, who is a Leonardo da Vinci of 21st century, is a patriot to the United States, trying to protect your life, the lives of your children. I'm running for U.S. Congress. You're like lucky. I'm running for U.S. Congress to save you and your children's lives. Yeah, so you should vote for me on November 3rd, 2020, because that's in your interest. What's in it for you? Lives of your children, your life, long-term safety of America. Yeah, that's all in it for you. That's why you should vote for me. Yeah, check back tomorrow. I'm gonna give you more important insights, insights that no other news channels come even close to providing you. A theory that is holistic, has evidence, logical deductions. I mean, geez, if this were done through Goldman Sachs, it'd be worth like, maybe millions. So you're lucky you're getting it for free from this show, COVID-19 Update by Heerak. I'm here to save you. I'm here for you. And I'm here to serve you as your public servant, as a U.S. Congressman for Virginia's 8th District. And you can see where my heart is. I'm here to save you. And so vote for me and support me. Help me so I can help you, right? Help me so I can help you. So yeah, so vote for me and support me and help me, defend me because I am your leader, right? And I can be a very effective national leader to bring us out of our current crisis. And that's why you need me. So yeah, so I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Same bad time, same bad channel, not the COVID bat, the American bat of Batman fame. Yeah, so I hope you'll be well and that your family will be well too. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.